All right, welcome to HOD Pod, an unofficial podcast and YouTube series on HBO's House of the Dragon. I am Steven. No, I'm not. I am Benjamin.
I'm Steven. Are you a faceless man? Are you trying to take my identity?
I meant to say sir, and then I was like, so Steven, but I don't want to... Yes, I'm the faceless man. Let's hope that never returns in House of the Dragon. God, that was not fun. So, let's start again. Go for it, Steven.
Well, I'm Steven, and this is House of the Dragon episode 2.
Yes, we are recording live from Davinci's Dreamworks 2 comic shop here in sunny Jensen Beach, Florida. We got comics, we got games, we got our Dragon Pit, live from the Dragon Pit, Game of Thrones stuff, obviously, as well. So please subscribe to both here on the channel as well as audio. So here on youtube.com/above and Batman Beyond. And then, of course, audio as well as Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. We also now have an IG and Instagram at House of the Dragon Pod. So follow us over there on Instagram.
Yeah.
And Facebook will be coming soon enough. So a quick outline of what we're going to do today. You know, we're only episode 2. This is technically the third episode of the podcast, but we're 3 episodes in, so we're still figuring some stuff out. And one of the things I thought would be fun to do is News from the Red Keep. We're working on the name of that segment, but especially with the exciting news that has come out, reactions to episode 1, all that kind of stuff. So News from the Red Keep. We're going to do initial thoughts as always, so non-spoiler thoughts. If you don't want episode 2 to be spoiled or other episodes, we'll always have a spoiler wall in our reviews. From there, the recap/review proper. So that is spoilers. We'll be going into the beat by beat of the episode, what we thought. And then we're also going to throw in some breaks here and there throughout the recap and review that I thought would be fun. We talked about doing dragon counts before, so kind of keeping track of the dragons throughout the episode. Also, like, it's kind of based on a bit of a ripoff of other podcasts that do kill counts for Game of Thrones shows, which is a perfect segment. But for us, Dragon Count, I thought would be a fun way to not quite rip off that idea. And lore breaks as well. So, for example, figures like Maegor the Cruel and all these legends that we hear throughout Thrones history that are applicable, of course, to House of the Dragon. We'll do some lore breaks. And then finally, next week, we're going to start doing a Q&A using our new IG. Again, follow us at House of the Dragon Pod on Instagram. So let's start off, Steven, with News from the Red Keep. Episode 1 of House of the Dragon literally broke the internet.
Yes, it did. It was like 9.982 million viewers. That's what the highest for an original series in HBO history. Pretty impressive. I've seen some funny TikToks too, where people walking by buildings and they see the same lights coming from every window because they're clearly watching the same thing. So that's fun.
That is nuts.
And then I heard episode 2 retained even more viewers. That episode 2 had 10.2 million viewers. This is on Sundays, is what these numbers are coming from. So that's pretty good. Episode 3 retains it or gets higher. Means the show's got legs, man. It's moving.
Yeah, because episode 1, I mean, it's the premiere. No one's seen this thing at all. Game of Thrones is the biggest show in history, as we talked about a couple episodes ago. So it's kind of like, all right, episode 1, huge, broke the internet. Specifically, what was it, Fire Stick users?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a funny side story about that, is that one of my good friends, actually from back home in Jersey, she follows me on Instagram, like my personal profile, saw about the podcast that we're doing. And she's like, you know, point is, everything she sees of news, she'll throw it at me and be like, hey, did you hear about this? Did you hear about this? She saw that we posted episode 1 and she's like, dude, I can't even watch it. Like, my internet's broken right now. She has the Fire Stick. So I was like, oh, snap. I know for a fact from a friend that, yes, Fire Stick users were locked out. And this was 9:30, she texted me. So for like a full half hour, she could not watch episode 1.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. From there, we've already got a renewal of season 2.
Yes, we do.
Which for us as a podcast, awesome. I mean, this could have been, I was not counting on it being anything more than basically a mini-series podcast, because if season 2 wasn't renewed, it's a mini-series.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how many seasons will the show get. Are they going to just fully adapt the Fire and Blood book? Since they started kind of in the middle a little bit, will they bounce around if they do other seasons? Is this season going to just cover the Dance of Dragons stuff, or are we going to actually cut that up a bit? That's unknown at this point too. We got a bit of a time skip just a tad little bit. So there's
For
still,
this episode, you mean?
Yeah, so there's still a lot left to cover. Like, we haven't even gotten to the real meat of the conflict, but I'm not sure how many seasons they might actually do for this. But if it's being well received, which so far it looks like, I don't see why they wouldn't just try to just do the Fire and Blood book. It is the book that's done, so you know.
Wait, a George R. R. Martin book that's done?
Yeah, the history book complete.
Who knew? And then finally, there are a couple series that are, I don't know if it's rumored to be in development or if they're confirmed to be in development, but a Nymeria series. So Princess Nymeria.
Yep.
Who we hear about in episode 1 of House of the Dragon, took her 10,000 ships. What's the story?
10,000 ships and sailed to Dorne.
Sailed to Dorne. And Nymeria, of course, is what Arya Stark names her direwolf after, I'm assuming.
Yep, based off of the stories. So Nymeria is a big influence of her. Well, just basically everything that happened in that type of history. Strong, powerful women. That's what Arya wanted to be.
Yeah, perfect Arya role model. Also, it's just awesome that, you know, Arya literally was raised reading Fire and Blood, this history book on which all the stuff that we're now watching is based.
Essentially so, yeah.
That's pretty dope. And then you were talking about the Duncan Egg show.
Yes, so Dunk and Egg are based off of a bunch of novella books. There's supposed to be 12 of them. George R. R. Martin has not finished them. I think there's only 3, but it's based off of the knight, Sir Duncan the Tall, and Aegon Targaryen the 4th. It's the one that's the brother to Aemon Targaryen, who is Master Aemon in the series.
He was the blind old guy in the
part of the Night's Watch.
Night's Watch.
For how the series is, the reason why Egg goes with Duncan is he's the squire. He's learning from him. And they're essentially going around doing tournaments as famous events are happening. They just happen to be there and how they interact with those events. He's there because he's the younger brother. So Aemon is the one who's supposed to be the heir and king. But as we know from Game of Thrones, that's not the case because he takes his vows and joins the Night's Watch. This leads to Aegon becoming the king. So that series will play out kind of like, here's some historical events, here are our characters, and then how will Aemon decide to go from being where he is to joining the Night's Watch instead. So it's very interesting. Plus, a lot of people love Sir Duncan the Tall in the books anyways. And those books are pretty popular too. It's like the Hedge Knight.
The Hedge Knight?
That's one of the books, yeah.
Yeah, I did hear on a podcast that, yeah, like the books, Song of Ice and Fire gets into, there's like, you can read the legend of Sir Duncan the Tall in the books.
Mm-hmm.
So that's dope. So, I mean, it's just endless source material.
Yeah.
This whole franchise, you know.
So, and now that means this is definitely a growing franchise. So
literally endless because he hasn't ended the book.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
But yes, a very rich tapestry from which to spin a bunch of series. So some corrections from episode 1, and then we are going to jump into episode 2. Corrections. The names are very confusing, guys, okay? These are Targaryen names. Last episode, I said Rhaenyra, I think the whole episode. It's Princess Rhaenyra. So please excuse that. Also, some of the other legacy families, the Starks, for example, I thought it was Rickon Stark. It's actually Rickard Stark.
Rickard.
So we were wrong about that. Please excuse us. So I guess he wasn't, which is good because Rickon Stark was useless in Game of Thrones. Rickard Stark seems like a solid dude.
Well, from what we see of him.
From what we see. In the Game of Thrones, no one can ever be sure, Stephen.
True.
As Hand of the King, you know this. Emma's name, I thought this was interesting. So Queen Emma, you know, it's spelled differently, but...
Yeah, it's like A-E-M-M-A.
As George R. R. Martin does all the time. It's Eddard Stark, not Edward Stark. And all these kind of quick, even like Peter Baelish is P-E-T-Y-R.
Yep.
So he plays around with the spelling and stuff, but the name Emma normally in you know, the real world comes from like kind of this, the Immacolata is the full name, I believe, in Italian. And then so it's Imma in Italian, I-M-M-A. Point is, I don't know if that's like some deliberate irony of this woman unable to give birth, and yet she's Emma, she's the Immaculate, she's the, I don't know, maybe some possible Christian crossover there in that name. Who knows?
Very possible.
Maegor the Cruel reference. So we got a bunch of Maegor the Cruel stuff. We are going to take a lore break today, briefly talk about that. I also will highly recommend, there's a podcast, if we don't have time for it today, called Cast of Kings, and they have a whole bonus episode that came out last week just talking about the lore of Maegor the Cruel, the history of Valyria, and the Doom. So definitely check those out if we don't cover those today. But there was a Maegor the Cruel reference. Maegor was a cruel leader of the Targaryens, a cruel king in the history of Targaryens. He built the Red Keep. We talked about him briefly, actually at the end of last episode. But real quick, I noticed in Season 8, the episode The Bells, there's a reference to we must take you to Maegor's Holdfast, because when the Red Keep's being destroyed by Daenerys's dragon, what's his name? Qyburn's like, we have to go into Maegor's Holdfast. I guess that's like the last safe place in the Red Keep.
Yeah, it's a defensive position that he built.
That cruel bastard. He at least was smart.
Well, yeah, well, he was pissing a lot of people off, so
He knew
ways out. Yeah,
he knew he'd need a holdfast against people trying to bake him alive. The cuts from the throne. So I thought this was interesting. We saw King Viserys be cut on the throne both this week and last week. He had the disgusting pus thing, and then we got the Feast of the Maggots this week. Martin said it's the throne rejecting unworthy rulers. So I thought that was really interesting. In one of his interviews, talked about how in the lore of the book that the throne itself almost has this like magical power to reject unworthy leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Cool shit. Couple more. So in HOD Pod, in House of the Dragon episode 1, Rhaenyra and Alicent talk about the history of Princess Nymeria. We talked about this before of, this possible series that's coming up. I guess I already confirmed this in my notes that this is in fact what the direwolf was named after.
Yep.
Awesome. I love how we're just waiting. So in Thrones we hear, when a Targaryen's born, every time a Targaryen's born, the gods flip a coin.
Yep. And
Right.
on Tails, they're psychotic.
Yeah. Heads is essentially possible peace. Tails is...
Ooh. Jaehaerys or Maegor? No!
No! So that's interesting of like, we don't know at any point, Rhaenyra could just pull a Daenerys and just start torching people. So I think that's interesting. I mean, obviously not early pre-time jump probably, but...
I mean, in the book, she's relatively reserved. Like, she wants to get things done. She's the kind of girls get it done type of thing. But in the book, she is reserved. She's not just out on a murder spree and whatnot. It's not so much that we're going to just have her rampaging against the other side, because obviously we haven't seen that conflict start up yet. So we'll just say the other side for now. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure that the show is going to make her go Mad Queen. Plus, considering how people didn't really like Daenerys doing that, they might really try to avoid it.
Right, yeah. You don't want to just go over pre-treaded ground, you know what I'm saying? Retread old things, yeah. So this comparison to, and this is the second to last thing, and then we'll move on to the actual episode too here. But the idea of dragons as weapons of mass destruction, I find fascinating. Like the symbolism of this is what gives the Targaryens these power. If you mess with Targaryens, you get the dragon. But really, it's it's a comparison to nukes. It's a comparison to weapons of mass destruction, which I didn't. I guess maybe at some point I put together, but they said it explicitly during the making of the episode The Bells in Season 8 of Thrones, and I'm like, oh yeah, they are. They're just nukes.
Oh, yeah.
And then each Targaryen gets their own little nuke to ride around on.
Yep. And we kind of get a little glimpse of that. A little glimpse.
A little glimpse of that, what, in this episode?
That if you mess with a Targaryen, you might get the dragon. And you get a little threatening tease.
In this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. And then finally, this analogy hit me when I was talking to my same friend. Her name is Marnie. Shout out to Marnie. And I ran into her at my job the other day, and I was saying how, like, because she was like, all right, so what do you think of the episode? Or what do you think of House of the Dragons? Episode 2 hadn't dropped yet. And it kind of just came out, and I was like, House of the Dragon is like a beautifully smooth ride in the finest of luxury cars. It's gorgeous. It's almost perfect visually. Feels great, well crafted, well constructed. But kind of what I'm missing from it, and even a little bit in episode 2, is just like Game of Thrones is a muscle car. Has no seatbelts. The driver's drunk. Like, you have no idea what's gonna happen. Someone could go at any time, and it's just this roaring machine that is beautiful. It's well crafted, but it's dangerous. You know, this show has some of that, but I just thought that was kind of an interesting, and yes, I made the point, so I am tooting my own horn, but yeah, Game of Thrones is a muscle car.
I mean, we could get the muscle car moment. I think once we get the 10-year time skip, we're going to go into muscle car mode.
So it's going to be like one of those new Dodge Challengers that it's like a resto mod. It like looks like a 69 Mustang, but it's got all the inner, you know, it moves like it has all the modern stuff in it. So yeah. Maybe it's one of those for car people out there. All right. So initial non-spoiler thoughts of episode 2, House of the Dragon. The Rogue Prince is the title.
Mm-hmm. Which is referring to Daemon Targaryen.
Of course, Daemon Targaryen. So, initial non-spoiler thoughts, Steven.
For the episode, I thought it was pretty good. Good pacing. I wasn't expecting kind of a small time jump. It goes up about 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
Yeah, I figured we were just going to kind of follow along. Then once we hit a certain point, we were just going to do the 10-year jump. Now I'm not sure if we're going to keep getting these gradual jumps or not, because it's very possible that start of episode 3 we get another jump. But the biggest thing, of course, that happens is the return of the theme.
Oh, yes. The opening map, baby. Now, not a map this time. Still an opening, still the Thrones theme. Go for it, Steven.
Yeah, as soon as I heard the music, I was like, oh, yes, Thrones is back, baby. And, yeah, the visuals is different. We don't get the map. But then again, that's not the point of this show. The point of Game of Thrones is eventually going to be the War of the Realm. So you're showing off the key places and players, where the setting is going to be, because these are all the people who are allying or vying for the throne. In this case, we're seeing like all these kind of like turn capsules that rotate, that have symbols on them as blood starts flowing. And that gives me the feeling that it is bloodlines, because the whole thing is dealing with bloodlines, the Valerians, the Targaryens. And I'm like, as it's going on, I'm like, all this blood's got to flow into the Targaryen symbol at some point, right? And their whole thing is blood and fire. So something's going to be on fire. And sure enough, at the end, all the blood connects and flows into the big Targaryen sigil, which seems to be above like a fire.
Oh, that final.
And I'm like wondering though, where is this? Because things usually have some type of reference, and I'm thinking, what
that was
if
my
this
thing. Is like, where are we? Yeah,
like maybe it's a forge for like where they make the Valyrian steel swords. Maybe it is in the dragon pit somewhere. Maybe this is where they put the eggs.
It might be somewhere we just haven't seen. Yeah,
they could put those eggs like on each section of where the multi-headed Targaryen dragon symbol is, and that's where they keep them warm for a little bit. I don't know until they give people the eggs. So I'm not sure until we actually see it. And they've been making sure not to take us inside the dragon pit.
I know.
I want to go inside the dragon pit.
That has been an annoyance of mine. And non-spoilers. All right, so what else? We got the opening. We got the. You can't call it an opening map anymore. What do you call it? The opening?
Just the opening theme, yeah.
Opening theme. And it's the opening theme music. So for me, I think for a lot of people, for most people, it's just that Pavlovian of HBO right into run dun 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 dun. I mean, that is, for all of us watching here, the best. There's nothing like it. Anytime there's a cold open in the show, like you'll go back to the pilot of Thrones, or you go back to, I think the opening episode of season 2, they do a cold opening as well. Cold open, if you're not familiar, just means instead of going to the opening credits, in our case the opening map, it goes straight into the episode. Shows like The Office, for example, it goes right in, and then you get the da-da-dun, da-da-da-da, you get the opening theme.
Star Trek's famous for that.
Star Trek's famous for that. Yeah, so Captain's Log, supplemental, and it's a Captain's Log thing, and then you get...
Yeah, normally we get a dramatic moment, and then it cuts to the opening.
Right, and it really changes the feel of the show. It's like how you open it, obviously, is big. Thrones, though, for us, it's just that Pavlov, like, anytime it goes to the cold open, it's not right in our brains. this going into not only an opening, as the of HBO was going, I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And my brain's just hanging on. And then to hear not just see, I should say, an opening, to hear the Thrones music, I was like, yes, bitch, we are back. I thought it was also a bold choice to use the same music, but it's kind of like, this is who we are, bitch.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, give the people, that's fan service to me, where it's like, serve it up.
Just look at it as the opening for Targaryens. There's Targaryens in all the shows. Very likely we should see them in all the shows, except maybe the Jon Snow one. We'll see. There's still some chances for some Targaryens to be roaming around.
But I don't know how to open a show, Steven.
That's why we cold open. Beyond the Wall. You can't get any colder opening than the Jon Snow show opening.
It's cold up here for a Southern go. Oh, stop it, Benjamin. Again, we're going to have a segment as well. I didn't announce this. Season 8 rips. Okay, we talked about that in episode 1. It's inevitable. All right, so I guess from the opening, what else? Before we go over the spoiler wall, as it were, anything else from episode 1 or episode 2?
So we're definitely getting direct callbacks to the first episode. Like, they mention offhand a problem. We're starting immediately with said problem, because this is to make certain characters like a little antsy, and that's the whole point. Like, certain people of the council are like, we have this problem going on, and we need to deal with it. And it's how the crown or the rest of the council is going to deal with that. Being
a crab feeder problem.
Correct. Because the shipping lanes are a major point of contention at the moment, and for the Valerians, that is the source of their income. If the shipping lanes fall, like he says, it'll beggar our ports. It means that everything's going to get all crap, basically, there. And he doesn't think the crown is taken it seriously. And so,
where's the Trade Federation in all this?
Not setting up a blockade, that's for sure. We need a blockade of dragons. That would end the crab feeder.
They really should have just opened this whole show with, like, the whole first act is just about, accounting and trade problems.
Well,
that never works in prequel, even. All right, so yeah, shipping lanes are important. We have Corus Valerion, right? So he's head of ships, essentially. He's head of the Navy.
He's the most wealthiest man in Westeros.
So yeah, so that's why he busts up into the council and is like, bro, crab feeders at it again.
Yeah, this time it affects me personally. And Otto Hightower, he doesn't really mind too much. He's like, oh, whatever, the crown will compensate you for your losses. It doesn't matter. It's like, but it does matter because they're messing with my stuff. And like we talk about, the Targaryens and anyone related to the Targaryens, that includes the Valerians, they don't like getting pushed around. They have the power. He had to work his way up and earn that position. He's not just going to let it be taken away. And he expects the crown to do something about it.
And it isn't about compensation. He's absolutely right there. Because it's like, yeah, okay, keeping the peace, but if you let, even down to like street drug crime, it's like, just because you're paid back by a dealer or whoever, if people out there think that they can rob you, they will continue robbing you. And then after a while, you got no business. And the other thing too is that, I think also Corlys has a very legitimate non-selfish point of view, which is not just they're messing with his stuff and his wealth, being the wealthiest man, but if you are messing with the wealthiest man in the land, it's like you're messing with the economy.
Yeah.
So that's where I think he's also being a statesman of like, no, we're protecting the realm's wealth, not just mine.
And he's also trying to do things correct. He's going to the council. He's going to the king. He's like, we need to resolve this, as a kingdom. He is the wealthiest man, meaning that he can get it done himself. He can pay someone to do it.
That too, right?
He can pay a bunch of pirates, raid the crap out of them, go attack them himself, whatever you want. The king's like, no, because we risk war with the free cities, and we've never been in open war with the free cities. And when they say free cities, we talked about this. It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, explain free cities very briefly.
Yeah, everything in Essos, like Bravos, everyone, we don't know because they're so vague when they say it. And that's, I think, their worry. How many of them are actually funding the crab feeder? Is it all of them? If you just go and
How many of the free cities?
Right. Okay. So if you just go and slap the crab feeder, are you now in open war with the entire other continent? It's like, okay, that can be long and drawn out. And they don't want that. And Viserys says that. He says a part of being king is knowing to keep the peace and keeping things safe.
Mm-hmm. Avoiding open war, yeah.
Right. And so he's in a tough position in this case.
Corlys.
The king.
Viserys, okay.
Yeah. Corlys is doing everything right because he can just go off the handle. Like I said, he's wealthy. He can hire someone to go fucking.
And as we learn in Game of Thrones, the genius of Thrones was going like, yes, there's politics and the crown. And then it's also like, and if you have money, you have all the power as well. I mean, you could hire the sellswords. You could hire the Golden Company. Baelish is among the most powerful in the kingdom because he's loaded,
Yeah. So, but somebody at the council, not a member of the council, has a great plan. It's like, we have dragon riders.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Rhaenyra's like, we could just send one over there. It's like, I'll do it. I'm a dragon rider. And, of course, like, at least the princess has a plan. I was like, woo.
Oh, the actor's delivery, too, the emphasis on princess. He's like, well, the king doesn't, the prince doesn't, but the princess has. I was like, yo, that delivery was perfect acting.
And Viserys looks at her, and he looks kind of actually proud that she's staying up and she's representing the Targaryen ideals.
Yeah, you could see that on his face real briefly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm proud, but shut the hell up.
Because she also doesn't just say it like, oh, we'll just go over there and light them on fire. She's like, we should show up in strength because we're fire and blood and show them that we're not going to get bullied around.
That's right. She says that it'll be a show of force. Yeah.
Right. Not, I'm just going to light all their ships on fire, burn them to the ground. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the strength that Corlys Velaryon is looking for. He's like, yeah, just show up and tell them to back off or it's going to get worse. And the king looks to be kind of with it until Otto Hightower can't have things working the way that Otto doesn't want. And so he's like, perhaps there's something better for the princess to do, like maybe go into the kitchen, get out.
Yeah.
It's like actually convinces the king to send her away.
Go start your work on the birthing bed somewhere.
And Otto does have a point. It's like, she's your only heir. You're not remarried yet. Like, if something went wrong and you lost her, then you're really, really in trouble. Your line is. Which was
it's a legitimate concern. It's also a concern that they have throughout the end of Thrones, which is like, Danny, you can't keep going into battle personally on these dragons. Like, you will get shot off a dragon just like they will. But it's a cool thing, I think, throughout Thrones, and if you're covering medieval stuff, is the king goes right into battle with everybody else. Mm-hmm. So it's badass that these figures of royalty, like, sure, they're dressed fancy, they smell of dragon apparently, but like, they will bring the wrath, and they'll do that shit themselves. And this being the Rogue Prince, I mean, the title of this very episode, back to the episode, is like, this guy does it all himself. He's on his own now, and yeah.
And speaking of that, like, we could probably start going into spoilers and about why it's called the Rogue Prince.
Yeah, so let's, I guess, to wrap up, if I have any other non-spoiler, let's just jump into it, because I think from here it really will just spoil anything if we hit other plot points. So 3, 2, 1, crossing the wall. We should have some kind of wall sound. Oh, the wall sound from the first show. We should do that. We should have our editor put in that elevator sound. All right, awesome. So 3, 2, 1 spoilers. Go for it.
All right, so it's obviously called the Rogue Prince because the Rogue Prince is Daemon Targaryen. So the king's having his normal fun conversations with Alicent Hightower. He's finished building his big model kingdom.
Which is dope as hell. I'm sure we'll have a model of it here at Davinci's Dreamworks at some point.
Not something that intricate, but, he keeps...
But the stonemasons will build it.
He's reminiscing about old Valyria, and Alicent even says, do you think you can bring back old Valyria? And he's like, I'm not sure. Like, nothing like old Valyria probably ever be seen again. And as he's holding his big little dragon model, he drops on the ground and it breaks. And I see that visually as like the fracturing of House Targaryen because it's already happening.
I thought it was just to get the trope high school thing of dropping your books and you and the girl bump heads.
Yeah, but she didn't bump heads. She just picked it up. And
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and obviously later on, she gets it fixed by the stonemasons and brings it to him.
And I am glad that that scene has more meaning than that. Yeah.
Yeah, and visually what it does is it allows the king to associate the mending of the dragon to be the mending of House Targaryen. So he sees her as his answer to the pressure that he's getting, because now everyone is pressuring him to remarry. Everyone. And he obviously doesn't want to do it. And we talked about this. It's because there's differences with Targaryens being married versus everyone else in Game of Thrones, for the most part. The Targaryens marry who they love and want to be with, whether it's a brother, sister, cousin, relative, whatever.
It's an awkward Thanksgiving.
And they're the ones in power, so they're the ones who make the rules, so that's what they do. Everyone else, they get assigned somebody to marry, and you saw Daemon didn't like being assigned to somebody from the Vale.
Well, apparently the Vale is like where everyone gets married off to some rich uggo.
Yeah, it's where the ugly women hide. They're up in the mountains.
Some rich uggo from the mountains. Yeah. So mean.
Let go my uggos. I'm going to jump out the moon door.
Oh, God. That's why they have the moon door, so the husbands can
God. Suicide. That's why the king installed it?
Do you fare this woman? No! He'd rather go through the moon door.
I mean, I could totally see Daemon doing that action movie style. Jump through the moon door, whistle for the dragon, jump on it, and he's like, I'm out! He's gone. It's like, well, I never thought that would happen.
Oh, my God. Oh, I'm trying to think, like, how many movies have we seen some asshole, like, jump out of a thing, you're like, he's dead, and then, onto a plane or something.
Yeah, he's got his own train.
It's like the Batman train.
Oh, man.
Beautiful. So, he's got his, I've got to stop saying uggo in the mountains, but it really rolls off the tongue. So, Daemon doesn't want to be relegated to his uggo in the mountains because he's got a beautiful, I'll say that too, whore. We're going to get kicked off YouTube 3 episodes ago. But, you have a super hot, awesome Asian whore, and she rules, and he's like, yo, come at me. I got a dragon. This girl, I'm not going back to the uggo in the mountains.
An army of gold cloaks. So he's taken Dragonstone.
Yeah, so he's got muscle. He's got land now with Dragonstone.
And Dragonstone is supposed to be Rhaenyra's place because she's the heir.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. They say that that's her ancestral home because that is for her because she's the heir. That's where she goes until it's ready for her to come to King's Landing.
That's brilliant. So it builds even more tension of the... Yeah.
Right. And so they get news. It's like, hey, he just took it unopposed. What are we going to do about that? And the king's real hesitant to even deal with it. And it's like, I think he knows more his brother's just making a show of stuff. But it keeps coming back. So he gets the mended dragon. He's dealing with everyone trying to get him married.
What dragon?
The mended dragon figure from Alicent.
Oh, okay.
And so, like, he's talking to her when he gets interrupted. And the people come in and they're like, hey, we just got a message from Daemon. It's like, not only did he come here and steal a dragon egg, but it says because he wants his ancestral rights to have a dragon egg for his heir to be in the crib with, because he's announced that he's getting married and that his to-be wedded is pregnant with his heir, and he wants all the Targaryen rights that should be afforded to him. So everyone's squabbling and arguing and whatever, and then Rhaenyra's like, which egg was taken? And they eventually say that it's Dreamfire's egg. And why that's important to her specifically is Dreamfire's egg was meant for her brother, the one that died in episode 1. So that was supposed to be that heir's egg. So it's more like a slight. And so Rhaenyra still feels a little like, obviously upset at that, because she's the one who picked out the egg. And that's a big deal to her. So the fact that the uncle would do that, but I think they all know he's just trying to vie for attention. He wants to be noticed by his brother.
Statements.
Yeah. Notice me, senpai. Let me come back. It's like, I'm awesome. I have an army. I have a castle. I have a dragon. I have an egg. I have a wife.
Look at all my stuff.
I have an heir. Look at my pile of things.
My gorgeous whore.
What about your uggo in the mountains? I don't have any uggos in the mountains.
And if I do, guaranteed I fly out that moon door instantaneously.
Syraxes, we're out. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Otto, they're like, I will go and meet with him. It's like, no, the king cannot go and meet with him.
Right.
So,
Viserys is ready to go himself. Yeah.
you know what I'm surprised with how kind of slimy Otto is a little bit.
Yeah.
That Otto's like,
waiting.
I'll go, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, what?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to take the Kingsguard with me. We're going to show up. We're going to go get that egg. We're going to tell him what for.
Mm-hmm.
And well, remember what we talked about in the beginning of the episode? We were like, hey, you fuck around. You're going to find out with the Targaryens. So he goes there. He's talking to Daemon. They get in a little feisty, and then they draw swords. And you hear the swords pull out, and then
Who draws the first sword?
I think it's very simultaneous. The camera is angled technically behind Otto.
Okay.
So you see them draw
Okay.
the swords physically first, but I'm pretty sure it's all the
So
same.
it's kind of mutual. Okay.
Yeah. Because they're all talking shit, and then they draw.
Yeah.
And Christian Cole's taking jabs at Daemon Targaryen. Like, I'm the one who unseated you from your horse.
Yeah. Perhaps you also remember being unseated.
And so they're there. They're standing at basically the bridge, and then you hear Syraxes in the distance. Yeah, and he comes just like out of the mist, over the house. He's like, "Hey, am I hearing swords?"
With my long ass neck.
And it's very possible he actually saw them through the fog. So proving my point, dragons have telescopic, probably better than everyone's vision and hearing, unlike Daenerys' dragon that got sniped while flying probly
I don't know what
hundreds
you're
of
talking
feet
about.
into the air.
I think all the dragon stuff that happens in Game of Thrones is perfect.
Whoa! It wasn't. But okay, so this
Couldn't even let that joke go.
this dragon is like, no. There's swords and angry voices being yelled. I don't think so. So he's up. He's like, hey, I'm a nuke that thinks for itself.
Right.
Are we about to have a problem?
Yeah.
Are we gonna have a problem? And they're like, sheath your swords, you idiots, is what Otto says. It's like, you're the one who showed up. You know he has a dragon. You know it's up there.
Yeah, that was such a bitch move. Did you not expect? Yeah.
What do you think was gonna happen? You're gonna like push him in the schoolyard, like, give me that egg, and the dragon was gonna be like, excuse me.
Monkey bars, 3:00.
3:00. I'm gonna challenge you.
Right.
Sir Christian Cole's gonna unseat you off the dragon.
Yeah,
in fact.
like, oh, I got my joust muscle with me, and you have a dragon. Yeah. That made no sense.
I mean, Christian Cole, he's probably like, I could still unseat him off the dragon. Give me a really good horse.
As we know, dude, those Dornish have a balls.
I mean, they're the only ones that have defeated a dragon. Remember,
What do you mean?
They didn't get conquered by Aegon the Conqueror.
Explain.
Yeah, so when they sent the dragon...
So this will be a quick lore break. Go for it.
Yeah, so when they sent one of the dragons over there, they shot it in the eye, I believe, with poison arrows, with Scorpion or whatever, and it killed the dragon and it fell, presumably killing the rider as well.
Wait, so the Dornish also had those scorpion weapons?
They just called their things scorpions, but I think they were just venom. So yeah, they shot the dragon right in the eye. And they were already great at defending against the dragon anyways. The dragon showed up all the time and laid waste to stuff, but they like ingrained themselves to where they weren't ever in danger. And they just popped back up, beat up the people who held the Dorne capital. They didn't have to come back again with another army, lay waste to stuff. They were hiding. They'd take them over again, and then that's when they sent the dragon. And then they were like, all right, we're going to take the dragon down. So they're the only ones to slap a dragon. And remember, it wasn't the Seven Kingdoms for quite a while. They actually had to kind of have legit peace with them to get them to basically join. So yeah, it's not surprising to me at all that a Dornish man would be like, fuck it. Yeah. We're jousting on the dragon. I guess we're jousting on the dragon. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, all right, the ball's on this guy.
That was perfect. I mean, and you got all that amazing Pedro Pascal setup in Thrones. Like, we know, you say Dornish, you know who we're dealing with. Like, these people have balls. They are sexy. They rule. They're kind of the San Francisco of the of Westeros. I heard somebody explain it as very liberal. That's why he's kind of like bisexual, and none of them really care about that kind of thing. And but they are badass warriors.
Oh yeah, and so back to the fight is now escalated pretty hardcore. Otto's essentially surrendering. The dragon's leering in with his long serpentine neck, and then you see from the mist something moving through the mist. And then blam, right up from the mist clouds, you see Cyrax with Rhaenyra riding on it.
Cyrax wins.
Yeah, she flies over, then she lands behind Otto, positioning herself, and then she just gets up, walks right up to him. I was like, oh boy. And like Otto then tries to like, no. It's like, I got this. And she straight up's like, hey, I'm the source of all your problems. Do you want to kill me? And I looked at that as not like this childish one, like, I bet you won't kill me.
Right.
I think it's more like...
Say that shit to my face.
I think it's more like, if I'm the cause of all of this,
Yeah.
then do it, because this is ridiculous. It's like, she's mourning. She knows her father is mourning. They were just starting to have a connection again.
Yeah, they have that nice dinner together.
Yeah, and then he takes the dragon egg that means a lot to her. And
Because that was the egg that was in her cradle?
that was the
Is that
one
what it
that
is?
she picked to go into her brother's cradle.
Okay, that's what confused me. Okay, so explain it.
So Dreamfire's egg was the one that Rhaenyra picked to put into her soon-to-be-born brother's cradle.
Oh, the one we saw that got
the
torched.
one that died, yes. So
Dead baby bundle.
So he took that one, and he took that one obviously on purpose. And the whole thing is, you might look at it as, okay, well, when Daemon backs off and tosses her the egg and runs away after his like soon-to-be wife dips out, because she seems to know nothing about this marriage or being pregnant or whatever, so she disappears. And we're like, okay, oh man, Daemon's just a little bitch. Well, it's not that. He is literally trying to get his brother to acknowledge him. Like, he didn't want to be cast out. He expected to be his brother's heir. He is the one that fights and will defend his brother. They defend each other. Like, Viserys defended him in court all the time.
Yeah, the two of them, I heard an interview with both Patty Constantine and
Matt Smith.
talking, and they were interviewed together, and they were talking about how, yeah, they both have a very high mutual respect for one another, defend one another.
Yeah, so like, I don't think Daemon's trying to like provoke war fighting. Now, Daemon doesn't give a shit about Otto, and maybe that was the point. Maybe Otto is risking death so it would cause Viserys to get rid of Daemon. That's very possible. It's unknown.
So Otto's thinking ahead a little bit of,
Yeah, because like, why the whole time? Like, why would you go? Why would you go? You know he hates you, and it's like, and you can't do shit. You cannot do shit to him. You don't have a dragon. You don't have nothing.
Yeah.
So alls it would be is to provoke him into fighting, get slapped around, anger the king to do something about it. And he's just trying to poke the Targaryens.
I was gonna say you're poking the dead bear, or you're poking the bear / dragon of getting the guy to do something stupid so that Otto can be back in favor.
Yeah, and he really just doesn't want Rhaenyra involved. And so she shows up without permission, which we find out because the king did not know that she went. And she resolves issues. She gets back the egg. There was no bloodshed. No soldier died. Daemon goes and he talks to his whore. And she's like, listen, I didn't want to be part of this. You said I would be safe. But people literally came here to possibly hurt us because I'm with you. And it's like, all I wanted was my freedom. I've been bought and sold constantly, more times than I can remember. So, and he's starting to realize this too. It's like, to actually have an heir, he needs probably somebody else.
Beside her.
But he's still like young and just like, no, I just want to bang whores.
Yeah.
The Uggo, not the Uggo.
Anything but the Uggo from the Vale.
No.
But I also think it's just like, stop telling me what to do. It's like, if this is who I want to have sex with now, and this is who I want to be with, if it's who I want to marry. And I think that's mostly what the marriage thing too is as well. It's just like kind of a sexual flex. Like, if this is who I want to be with, guess what? I'll also marry her. How do you like that? Like, the whole thing is just stop telling me what to do. I am the rogue prince. I get shit done. The king's my brother, and I have a dragon. So good luck.
Yep.
One thing I'll say about his whore, unfortunately, I'm sure we should use her name when we know it. Do you know her name?
Not off the top of my head.
Sorry.
I really haven't been paying much attention to her specifically.
Well,
It also looked like she had a thicker accent this episode than the first episode.
Which I'm about to cover. I'm big on accents. I'm big on dialect and stuff. This seems like a Shay round 2, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like, Shay from Game of Thrones is a pretty universally disliked character, I'd say. Like, whatever actor they got. I try to give actors a fair chance, because it's not always, if a performance comes off not good, a lot of times that could be direction, it could be writing, it could be a lot of things, not the actor. Dude, after how many episodes of Shay, badly written character, badly performed, badly direct, I mean, everything about her. And one of the things that drove me nuts about that character is the accent work. This seems almost worse accent-wise, this woman. I don't know if it's, again, this isn't me projecting that onto this actress because it's too early to tell. It's only really, I mean, we saw her in episode 1, but not enough of her for me to judge yet. I'm sensing a lot of Shay. It's like, oh, here's a whore that, my rich dad doesn't want me to be with, and now you're just using me to flex, blah, blah, blah. And I never bought that relationship in Thrones, and this one so far, I'm buying it a little more, but her performance needs to improve for me to care.
Same. That's why I haven't really delved into caring too much about it. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It's, like you said, it's the Shay storyline. Yay. It's time to skip and wrap this one up. Wrap it up. Or go back to the Uggo. Pick one. Let us see this hideous beast. What if she's...
I can't be made to choose between an Asian whore and an Uggo.
What if the woman in the veil is just absolutely drop dead gorgeous, but she's just not his style? She doesn't have white hair like a Targaryen, and she's not tan-skinned like these fancy otherworldly whores.
Right.
She's just fair-skinned with blue eyes and dark hair.
Yeah, he only likes Asians or Targaryens. That's it. Yeah.
It's like, oh, is that Jennifer Connelly?
Oh my God. All right, so we have just under 15 minutes to kind of wrap up here. It doesn't look like we'll have time to kind of... Actually, let's do it. Yeah, let's do our dragon count now, and then we'll start to kind of wrap up the episode here. So in episode 1, for example, in this dragon count segment, just like it sounds, we count the dragons that we got in our show called House of the Dragon, a worthwhile endeavor as far as I'm concerned. So episode 1, for example, we saw Syrax. Syrax is
Rhaenyra's dragon.
We saw Syraxes.
That's Daemon's dragon.
It's Daemon's dragon. He's the long-ass serpentine neck, as you described.
And you saw the skull for Balerion, which is the last rider for Balerion, which they mention again in this episode, is Viserys.
Yeah, so this is Balerion, right? So beat with a B.
The Dread.
Balerion the Dread, who, yeah, and we'll also take this opportunity to do another quick lore break here. So Balerion the Dread was the dragon on which Aegon the Conqueror, kind of our OG Targaryen, when he first took King's Landing.
Yep, and he's the last dragon to have seen Valeria the Old.
To see old Valeria. Interesting. You said something that I didn't know about last week, that dragons live 200 years, correct?
They can live longer, possibly. Like, they live a long time.
Interesting. So for a prequel show, that's stretching the span of 200 years, that's also, I think you said something that was interesting too, of like, here the old dragon would be, one that saw old Valyria. The old dragon for Thrones would be a dragon that conceivably was around during this time.
Yeah.
So you were talking about that in Thrones proper, there could be a dragon from this time flying around Westeros.
There could be. They could be in other regions of the area. They could have just fled the area when the fighting started, for all we know. They could be what's west of Westeros. They could be over there. They can be north. There's all kinds of rumors in the books. Like, there's rumors in the books that one of the dragons laid a clutch of eggs in Winterfell. And then we never saw any of those dragons, if they're there even. Obviously, we see an egg in this episode, Dreamfire's egg. Well, presumably, if that egg hatched, that dragon would definitely be alive for Game of Thrones if it wasn't just outright killed. And there's a bunch of wild dragons. There are dragons just roaming around. Don't belong to anybody.
That is so cool. So, dragon count for this episode, Steve.
Mentions or scene?
Let's do scene first and then mentions.
So scene, we got 2.5 technically.
Okay.
So we got Syraxes again, we got Syrax, and then we got Dreamfire's egg. So that'll be your half.
Still important, yeah. Eggs count.
They do count. And then we get big mentions of Vhagar. Vhagar is one of the other big dragons. And that one is so big, it can't even stay in the dragon's pit. They don't even know where it is, that it's gone off nesting somewhere. It's like,
and what was the context of that coming up? I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, they were talking about in the beginning of the episode. It's like, when's the last time you've seen Vhagar? Alicent was talking to Viserys about it.
Yeah, wow. Go ahead. I don't remember.
Yeah,
this. Go
so yeah, Vagar's the big dragon. It should be close to the size of Balerion now. It was the smaller dragon because it's one of the three that conquered Westeros. And so we did see the rider for that dragon in this episode. Well, what will eventually be the rider for
the
that
rider
dragon.
of Vagar?
Yeah, which is Lenora, the young 12-year-old
Oh, God.
wanting to be betrothed to the king.
So, actually, yeah, perfect timing. Let's get back to the episode. Dragon count. Good work.
Yep.
Dragons have been counted. So, yeah, get into it.
So
What were you just
the big plot of the episode is
Yeah, and let's cover the rest of the plot of the episode. Make sure we get that done.
yes, everyone is pressuring the king to remarry. The small council wants him to remarry. He's actually having meetings with individual members. Like he talked to Caleris by himself. He was talking to the Master of Coin by himself, and it's like, "Hey, should I get married? Yeah, you should." And so everyone's trying to vie and find the right person for him. Caleris straight up is like, "Bloodlines, bro. We can be back to old Valyria, my Valyrian blood, your Targaryen blood. Marry my daughter. I know she's 12, but she'll give you many children." And it was a little awkward seeing Patty walk around with this 12-year-old girl in the gardens. At the same time,
Yeah.
obviously Rhaenyra is upset that her dad is willing to like basically move on, and Rhaenyra tries to kind of push her a little bit. Is like, this is how things work. That'll be you one day.
So, explain Rhaenyra.
So she's the queen that never was.
The
She's
queen who never was. I
she's the
love
one
this.
who
This was
got-
so Game of Thrones. The scene between the two of them, I was like,
Oh yeah, she's the one who got passed up being the heir to Jaehaerys for Viserys himself, and so
and she's the wife of
Of
Corlys, who is, again, that master of ships and all that.
oh yeah, and so yeah, she's making her pokes at Rhaenyra, and basically she's like, "Hey, listen, this is how things are," and it's like, your father's gonna remarry, and he's probably gonna have another heir. And the whole reason for that is he needs to strengthen his line, because if something happens to her, the line can just end, especially if he dies. So it's just to ready the line. And she seems confident. Rhaenyra's like, "No, I'll still be the heir." And then Rhaenyra is like, "No." It's like, if he has a male heir, that one will be the heir. And it's like, the realm would rather burn than see a woman on the Iron Throne. And it's like, and you'll see. And so they're kind of spatting at each other back and forth. Rhaenyra even calls her the queen that never was. Right to her
Yeah,
face.
she holds her own, man.
Yeah, she does.
I was like, shit.
She finally
The
gets
queen
like
that never was.
she finally gets encouragement from Alicent to go talk to her father about her grief. So she does, and then she eventually tells her father, she's okay with him getting remarried. She understands, because they both obviously miss, he misses his wife and she misses her mom. Because like we talked about, it's different for the Targaryens.
And again, they have
He
that
was in love
touching
with her.
moment during dinner, yeah.
Yeah, and so she seems excited, and he announces, "Yes, I'm going to." At the end of the episode, he's like, "I announce I'm going to remarry," and everyone's watching. It's like, "I decided to marry Alicent Hightower." And
Record
when-
scratch.
What? And Rhaenyra's like, "When I said it was okay, I didn't mean bang my best friend and make her my mom." What? And Corlys is like, "Are you kidding?" And then Otto's sitting there like, "Yeah, the look on his face, he's looking right at Corlys, is like, "How do you like that one, buddy? Take your ships and shove them." It's like, "Oh, okay." So, the shocking, and at that moment,
To your
Corlys is-
12-year-old daughter, I raise my 15-year-old daughter.
yeah, and from Caleris' standpoint, he's like, "All right, Otto is pushing and pulling too much of the strings. Is like, I need to go get this stepstone stuff resolved. The crab feeder's got to get wrecked," and he starts.
Oh, good point. Yeah, that directly causes him to, at this point, screw it. I'm going to take care of this myself, because this guy, he's not taking care of business, and he didn't wed my 12-year-old daughter.
How dare he? How dare he? She would have given him many children.
Many children.
United the bloodlines.
We know she would produce children. She's 12. We know this.
Yes, we know this. And so, he's talking, and he's like, "Hey, I need someone who could do this and do that." And then you turn to the camera turns, and you see it's Daemon Targaryen. And he's like, "And why would I help you?" And it's like, "So you can make a name for yourself and prove your worth. And he kind of makes some sly remarks to the king. And Daemon's like, I can talk about my brother, but not you. Still proving that he defends his brother.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm allowed to be upset with him because he's my brother. He's still your king. But this is still a good move for Heirs, because we talked about this, because if Daemon, who is technically banished, goes and slaps around the crab feeder, the crown can back off and be like, listen, we banished this guy. We banished him 6 months ago. We have no ties to him. He's roaming around being a rogue prince, haha, wink, and doing his own thing. So if he lights your guys' fleets on fire, oops.
Yeah, sucks for you.
It's like, didn't we tell you the banner is fire and blood? Fuck around and find out. You're about to find out. Episode 3. We're going to roast some crabs, boys.
What do they call those? Crab bakes? Like clam bakes?
Yeah. I want some crab cakes. Oh, yeah. So, obviously, episode 3.
Yeah.
We're going to get a lot of fighting and murdering. And will we get a time skip? I don't know. They could skip a few months in.
Real quick, let's do predictions for episode 3 and also talk about the crab feeder. Go.
Yeah. So we could get our time skip another couple of months and be like, okay, we're middle into this war in the steppes, or we're at the last thing. We finally see the crab feeder. We're going to wreck him. That would suck because then we don't really build him up as a villain. At least we got to see him. Start of the episode, we literally saw him feeding people to crabs.
Yeah, and they opened the episode with that.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
as you know from last episode, I'm big on openings. That was a money opening.
Oh, yeah. He's nailing people to, like, stakes in the sand, out in the sun, their skin's drying and cracking, and crabs are coming by and ripping pieces of flesh off guys' feet. They're like,
Yeah, we see that guy, he's passed out, and then he wakes up with a crab inside him, and he's like,
oh, yeah. Oh, just very visceral, but very Game of Thrones. Very perfect for
and he
a
also
villain.
has grayscale, the
He
crab feeder.
looks like it.
I watched with the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
They confirmed that is grayscale. It's not the advanced stage that we saw like Jorah get, or Jorah. But yeah, he's got a bit of, yeah.
Which is very interesting.
And his helmet is, you recognize the helmet?
Yeah, it looks like the Sons of the Harpy almost.
Yep, and they said that. They're like, there's a whole, I think for every episode they're doing this on HBO. There's, behind the scenes, like 22-minute mini docs covering all the makings of these episodes. And they said that. That's a Sons of the Harpy mask, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that's going to be very interesting. I really hope that if they do another time skip, another light one, that it's very light, because I really want to see him kind of being a villain and fighting and pushing him to the brink. And then
I want to see more of him,
before he gets wrecked.
Oh, I see what you mean. So before the invasion that you talk about before, let's see him develop a bit, yeah.
Because as far as like the main story goes, like he's going to get slapped. Like they have dragons, he's a crab.
Yeah,
with grayscale. Well, we're gonna cure that grayscale real quick.
He's a crab with grayscale.
Yeah, I'm a gray crab. And I was like, well, Dragon's Fire.
I think we found a suitor for the Uggo in the mountains.
Ooh, like I said, unless she's not a real Uggo, it's just not Damon's type. We need to see Game of Thrones showrunners or House of Dragon showrunners. Please show us the Uggo in the mountains. Is that why they call it the veil? Because that's the equivalent of having the bag on the head. Uggo. Oh no, I'm gonna have to veil that one.
Well, and that's kind of the sick history of the wedding veil. I heard is like you don't get to see her face, and then if you don't approve, that's God. Anyway, so yeah, any final thoughts on episode 2?
I thought it was
the Rogue Prince.
I thought it was pretty good. While we didn't get a lot of crazy action or dragon action, we see the dragons. Epic moment coming out of the clouds there.
Oh, I know the
with
visuals,
Cyrax.
dude.
Man, she's like a boss. And the dad was like a little mad. He was kind of like, why did you go out there? I was like, but I did all this stuff. It was like, and he's kind of got this little smirk like, yeah, I know you did it. It's like, but that's bad because if something happens to you, I have no heir. And that's why I have to get remarried.
But when no one's looking, good job.
Good job. I'm always rooting for you. I made a little figure of you, and I have it constantly slapping Damon's figure. We're not looking.
Just like that little chessboard we saw in the beginning that was super dope of when she's choosing the new Kingsguard.
Yep.
So yeah, final thought. I mean, I loved it. Like you said, no intense action, but we got the huge confrontation. We got dragons. We got a confrontation with dragons. We also got while there, I mean, throughout Thrones, as long as for me there's movement of the political intrigue, of the palace intrigue.
Definitely.
A lot of, season 1 of Thrones is widely considered to be one of the best, if not the best. And they didn't have the budget for dragons for a ton of stuff. So a lot of the best of Thrones is them sitting in rooms talking. But it's so well done. Performance, writing, all of it. And I think we got plenty of that in this episode to keep me sated. I really preferred this episode over episode 1. Yeah. I thought it opened better. I thought it doesn't have the heavy lifting that episode 1 has. No voiceover. Thank God. I was really hoping we didn't get any more of that Lord of the Rings, like, it's been 200 years since blah, blah. I mean, even reviewers I heard. Again, I try to avoid reviews before doing my own. And so I listened to a bunch of them after doing our episode last week. And all of them said that felt very high fantasy. That felt very Lord of the Rings. They liked it because they like Lord of the Rings. I don't. So I didn't like that. I'm glad we didn't get more of it. What else from episode 2? I think it's, again, really good setup. I cannot wait to see more of the crab feeder, man. That is such good, sick, very Game of Thrones, disgusting, visceral, makes your skin crawl, grayscale. Loving it.
Yeah, he's kind of like a creepy Ramsay.
A creepy Ramsay. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because Ramsay's flaying people. His whole thing is like
sadistic.
Torture and he's trying to make his presence known, to be feared, and definitely like hanging out the entire like survivors of the ship battles and feeding them the crabs. Well, that's a hell of a statement.
That'll make her statement. And apparently in the behind the scenes they gave him real quick and then we're done. A hammer and apparently in the book it's a sword is his weapon. Whatever the weapon is, it's different, and they changed it for the show because the weapon designer was like, of the show, he goes, well, if this guy's thing is nailing people to stakes, let's make his weapon the hammer. Yeah. So he's got this awesome dope-ass hammer, and he just hammers people to stakes in the crab sand. Mm-hmm. Good guy. Real nice chap.
Peter would love him. He feeds the crabs.
So yeah, this has been episode 2 of HOD Pod, an unofficial podcast on House of the Dragon. I will remember my name next time, let's hope.
Maybe.
Well,
maybe next time I'll be Ben.
This isn't about us. This is about the dragon. But yeah, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Spotify for now. It should be coming to Apple ASAP. Here for now, youtube.com/above and Batman Beyond for YouTube. However, we do have video episodes coming to Spotify as well. We're going to be just as big as JRE, man. Just as big as Joe Rogan.
Oh, we trying?
Yeah, no. Ooh. But I figure I'll start putting the video episodes up there. It seems pretty simple. Once we get an editor, I'll get someone to upload some videos to Spotify, so you guys will have that. And once again, finally, at House of the Dragon Pod on Instagram. Give us a follow. So I have been Benjamin.
And I'm Steven.
Thank you for joining us and entering
House of the Dragon.